What's up, everyone? We're your host, Grant Cohn and Sybilla Bakzaza. Today, we have an interesting observation of a pattern of Kyle Shanahan's, and it has to do with the players he trades up for. We're going to get to that later. We also have breaking news in terms of who's available and who's not. But we wanted to start off with Raheem Mostert. He may never play another game with the 49ers. He's going through a dark time right now, and we want to give him some support. Sybilla, would you like to start?
Absolutely. The first thing I have to say is no one is more devastated about this injury than the Mostert family and Mostert himself. Raheem is he's a competitor. He has swag on the field. He cares about being a 49er, and I don't think for 1 second he forgets we are the ones who gave him a chance. So he is very much a part of this team. And to read and some of the comments and read that moving letter that his wife put out there asking people to just back off and stop sending so many mean messages, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
Grow up, people. Seriously. I mean, Raheem did not go out there and say, I'm going to play 2 snaps this season and end my season and say goodbye to the Super Bowl for my own participation, regardless of what the team can do. I, for 1 second, do not think this season is over, despite the 2 devastating injuries we took. But Raheem he deserves a lot more support. And back off his family. Seriously. That is unconscionable, unmanly behavior. And your fantasy football team, I don't like him.
See, that's what I was going to say. What I don't understand is Raheem is taking all this heat and like Jason Verrett isn't. Why is one person a bad irresponsible because he got injured, but another person is like a hero because he got injured? I mean, they're football players. They're all heroes in the fact that they're putting their bodies on the line and they're all going to get injured. And I don't see how you can get mad at a guy for getting hurt playing football. No one's mad at Jason Verrett. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is I think it's a fantasy football thing. I drafted you in the 3rd round. You ruined my team. Like, stop playing fantasy football. How about that? That's your fault for playing fantasy football. I don't play fantasy football.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, that's the least of my concerns. Yeah. I don't care about fantasy football. I care about Super Bowls.
Yeah, I don't play that.
And I, honestly, before the Super Bowl, I actually do care about who we have on this team. And yeah. Raheem, to me, represents what it is to be a 49er. I really believe that. He is such a good person. And it seems like he has such a great family as well. And my hat is off to his wife for standing her ground, because I know what this is like. You know, I model for major companies. You know, I do, macro influencing and things like that. I see some of these messages as well. And it's just from misanthropic, helotic minds.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And I don't think this represents the 49er fan base. The majority of us, we care.
And
so please, Raheem, stay.
I'll always remember Raheem Mostert era fondly. In my opinion, he's as good as any running back I've ever seen on this team. He just couldn't stay healthy that long. Like, he's like a baseball player who played 500 games in his career and batted 390. Like, he was great, but he just couldn't. His body couldn't keep it going, or at least it hasn't now. Maybe he'll have a long stretch in his 30s. I hope he does, because he's such a good running back.
Well, I actually have hope for him. And I think the reason I feel this way is because the surgery that he will have is something he has not had. And I fear because he was a practice squad player. I mean, he kind of made his name as a reject special teams ace. And then people started realizing, wow, he is a heck of a gunner. So let's design some plays for him. And he got some snaps because of who we had on the team. So a lot of things had to go right for him to have this opportunity with San Francisco. And once he got it, I feel the pressure was on him to provide us with results. And I think he probably played through some seasons where he should have already had this surgery. Yeah. I'm thinking this surgery should have taken place 2 years ago.
Probably. The fact that he came into training camp this year wearing a huge brace on his knee, in retrospect, not a good sign.
No.
Not a good sign.
I've had knee injuries, and I've never trained with a knee brace.
Yeah.
I don't live with a knee brace.
Yeah. Can only imagine what that would do.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So Raheem, if he can get healthy and they can bring him back at a reasonable rate, I'm all for it. And I wonder, I don't
the
think
ceiling is so high.
Absolutely. And he doesn't have, well, he has an injury history. He doesn't have much tread on his tires, and he might not be too expensive. You might be able to get him for $1 million. Just saying. All right, let's move on.
Absolutely.
I'm not in West Virginia, but you can watch the press conferences on YouTube, which I did this morning, and Kyle Shanahan has some news basically about the people who aren't practicing. Let's start off with Javon Kinlaw. Still not practicing. He may play this week, but he's not practicing today, like not at all. And when asked about what's going on there, Kyle Shanahan said, well, that injury he had last year against the Cowboys actually was serious, and it's why he needed surgery, and it really hasn't healed right, were his words. Hasn't healed right. So that's all we know right now. I guess, what are your thoughts on if they don't have him in this game? We're going to talk about the Eagles a little later, but they ran for 168 yards last week.
Yeah, so I watched that game because of issues with the broadcast in my area with Game Pass. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just turn on the Eagles game. That was one of the worst games I've ever watched for the first quarter. It was miserable.
Yes.
The Eagles and the Falcons were both miserable squads out there, but the Eagles adjusted. And to me, that says something about them. But one thing they definitely did is they gashed up the middle.
Yep.
If you want,
right there. Yeah.
Right. And we don't have an interior defender that's like him.
No.
And it's one of those things where you want a higher ceiling out of a first-round pick like him, but at the same time, if your draft bust is a great interior defender, go with it.
Right.
You won't have to sign him for a huge contract compared to, other first-rounders like Bosa, for instance.
Right. Good point.
So I do think he is really necessary to the success of this team. It's one of those things where the pass rush gets home when they can slow the game down with rushing, and the Lions ate us alive. There's no other way to put it, up the middle. In particular. And that is of great concern to me.
Yeah, because to me, Miles Sanders is a better running back than DeAndre Swift.
Hands down.
Miles Sanders might be one of the more underrated running backs in the league. And what's interesting about this attack is the change of pace running back is Jalen Hurts, essentially.
Exactly.
He'll run 8 to 10 times in this game. They'll call runs for him. They're not treating him like, oh, we got to protect this guy. He's our franchise quarterback. No, they're getting him on the run as much as possible. I kind of liked we're going to talk about them later, but what I want to talk about is this is bad news. And big picture with Javon Kinlaw, when he first got hurt last year, they're like, oh, it's a bone bruise. He'll be back. No big deal. And this thing, every report gets worse. And it makes you question the Niners' transparency and truthfulness. And it also makes you go back and look at some of these guys they've invested in who've had knee injuries. I mean, Jason Verrett, Raheem Mostert, Javon Kinlaw. It's like they keep getting burned by their organizational, philosophy pattern, whatever they're doing. This is a rough one. Javon Kinlaw needs to be great for them. They traded Buckner for this guy.
And if you go back as far as the previous regime, you also have Latimore. So it's just, that's the thing that surprises me is that both regimes seem to have this kind of thing. And I get it. It's kind of like gambling. It's kind of like playing blackjack. You're like, hit me. And you're just hoping you get the right card. And it seems like the Niners just keep saying, hit me. And they keep getting hits is the unfortunate part. So Kinlaw's knee was documented coming out of college.
Yeah.
He's a beast when he's on the field. But this is something I mean, if he has a knee injury, they need to shut him down. They have to.
That's terrible for the season. But
otherwise, what's the point?
I know.
It'll just be another Mostert thing.
Yeah. The other thing I know just with the Niners is it's like guy always has setbacks. Oh, so it's just not healing right, or he had a little setback. It happens all the time. So either the Niners don't do a great job of rehabilitating their players, or they're not just telling us the truth. And they're like, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. 6 months later, oh, yeah, he's had it hasn't really healed the way we thought. I don't know. They say it all the time. So I don't get it. It's not doesn't inspire confidence.
This reminds me of the way the Patriots would run a few years ago, concealing the injuries around Tom Brady, if you remember that. And one of the things we have lauded John Lynch in particular for is keeping things in-house. And I think this organizational philosophy extends to every facet of the game, including these guys are fine.
I think you're right.
I think it's clandestine.
I think you're right. I went back and found his quote from pretty soon after it's like right after the season ended. It was 2 weeks after Kinlaw got hurt. John Lynch at a press conference was asked, what's the deal? And he totally downplayed it. He was like, oh yeah, it was just bone bruise. And we thought he might be able to play week 17, but he's all good. No, don't worry about it. That's what John Lynch said. So I think what we're learning is don't listen to John Lynch when he talks about players' injuries. He's probably an ex-player who feels it's none of your freaking business.
Of
That's
course.
how Harbaugh felt.
Yeah, absolutely. And players, I mean, as a martial artist, if I was nursing a joint injury, I sure as heck don't want my opponent to know which one it is. It's one of those things. And in football, I feel that's why they protected Tom Brady. And to be honest with you, you're telling me every defensive end out there is not going to go low if they know his knee is ailing? I'm sorry. Not everybody is virtuous. It's just the way the game is played. I mean, there's just someone out there that even if they don't target the knee, they'll target, if it's the left knee, they'll target hits on the left side. It's just as simple as that. They'll go low and things like that. So I just think that a lot of coaches will try to protect their players this way.
Well, it's interesting. The Niners are in a position where they're like, we want to go slow with Kinlaw because it seems like it improves as you give it time. But it seems like you use him that one game, he may not be good to go for another month. What do you do with him? This is starting to feel a lot like Jalen Hurts. Not a torn ACL, but I mean, if it's arthritis, tendonitis, whatever it is, if it requires surgery and it's not getting better, man.
Arthritic conditions are chronic, so it's not something that you can just take some ibuprofen and it will go away. A lot of times it will need physical therapy and perhaps even surgery if you want to clean it up sooner. That's up to his doctors, of course. And as far as I'm concerned, just like in the military, I think that the doctors should have final say, and we shouldn't push players, and we should look at the reality. We shouldn't play for just this season, because I think that mentality is why Mostert is out.
Right. Good point.
We needed him this season. So why did he play at all last year if he had this condition?
Yeah. I'm just looking at let's just look at the totality of Kinlaw's year and decide when he's coming back. I mean, had surgery right in January, played in OTAs, and re-injured himself, apparently traveling after OTAs, came to training camp and was there basically half the time, never did one-on-ones. They were very careful with him to not overdo it. He played in a couple of the preseason games, hasn't been healthy since the Raider game. It seems like he's been hurt for he's been hurt for at least the last 3 months. At least.
What does it mean he hurt himself when he was traveling? Did he fall off the airplane?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
See, but you know what? When I hear that,
he injured himself after minicamp.
Now, see, when I hear something like that, what happened is he injured himself in minicamp and it flared up through probably inflammation or something while he was traveling, because he's sitting and he's allowing his glutes and his hamstrings to become tight, which pulls on your kneecaps, on your patellar.
Okay, so
that's what happens. I can almost guarantee you. You have a doctor. You should bring him on and talk to him about this, because I think he will agree. What we are hearing is he was injured and it flared up. The symptoms began to show from inactivity while he was sitting.
Yikes. Okay, so it's been a bad year, and I wonder at what point. I asked Kyle Shanahan, are you considering IR for Javon Kinlaw? And he said, not yet. We're hopeful that we're getting him back. I mean, I think it's different than Hurd in the sense that they don't need Hurd. Hurd was like the 6th wide receiver. They really need Kinlaw. If he doesn't play, they could really have an issue. I think, let's put it this way. If he doesn't play, they may have to scrap the wide 9 against certain teams. And I think this week is one of them. How are you going to defend Miles Sanders?
Double running backs.
I think you need to play 5 across the front, because that's a run-first team. You really
it's a double jeopardy, absolutely.
Yeah, you really want Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm.
Was it Hurst that injured his ankle in preseason?
Yeah.
So now we are seeing the impact of that, because he's a run stuffer.
Yeah. All right. Sean says no one wants to be injured. Raheem is a class act. I think some of the irritation is because he could have had surgery before this. He wasn't fully right to begin with. I hope he heals well.
Good donation, obviously. And I understand that people are frustrated, but nothing excuses the conduct towards his family and any angst. I mean, there's no reason for frustration or irritation. I mean, we have the ability, the capacity to feel down, and I'm down. I can't stand losing him, but it has nothing to do with him. And the thing is, it's a team. The team can also put their foot down. They have team doctors. They have physical therapists. They have a medical staff. If they see something, they should talk with his agent.
Yeah. Steven Hernandez says, why TF are they working out Kinlaw if they know he has tendonitis in his knee? Let him disappear for 2 weeks and slowly work him back in. JFC, guys, come on.
Steven's right. I mean, he's absolutely right. There's physical. I will say this: there will be physical therapy involved, which will be like reverse lunges and things like that. He does need to keep his knee mobile, and he needs to do things like yoga stretching and things like that, especially on his gluteal area. But there's no reason he should be squatting, no reason he should be doing drills or things like that. He should absolutely be shut down and go straight to physical therapy. Steven is correct.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think what he should be doing right now, he should be on IR. Because you can
short-term IR.
Exactly. You can bring guys
happens.
back 3 weeks later. He should be on IR, not doing anything. But they're nervous. I understand. They're probably thinking, we might need him against the Eagles. We might need, if we lose to the Eagles, we have a big problem. And
this is a trap game. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Do not underestimate this Eagles squad. To be honest with you, when I saw what happened in the fourth quarter, Niners fans, that fourth quarter, that's what you're going to see the rest of the season in our secondary. That's the secondary we have. And against a quarterback, we usually dominate. Against a subpar wide receiving core, I do not like the coaching staff of Detroit. The way they conducted themselves on the field was like children. Yelling at Okuda and then giving him a kiss on the forehead or something. Like, dude, what? I mean, that's a terrible coaching staff.
Yeah.
That's what they did to us. That was mostly like first game of the season blues, so to speak, but it was also a little bit of a prelude of what we could be facing if we do not have the cornerback situation sorted out. So yeah, we have to be careful because they have a better wide receiver in Philadelphia.
Let's talk about it right now. So another person who didn't practice today, Emanuel Moseley. They're not ruling him out. They're saying they're hoping he's going to play. Of course they hope he's going to play, but not practicing today. And usually the way it works, I mean, certain players, they'll play if they don't practice all week. Usually, like Fred Warner could play on a Sunday if he didn't practice all week, or Nick Bosa. Emanuel Moseley, maybe. But usually if he doesn't get on the field, at least in a limited, if he can't even warm up with his position group by Thursday, it's looking bad. So we're not there yet, but it's starting to look not so good for Emanuel Moseley. You already lost Jason Verrett. It seems to me with a great pass rush and Moseley and Lenore, you're not bad against the pass. But once you lose Moseley too, I don't even know who the next man up is. Who do you think that is? And do you think the Niners can beat the Eagles without Emanuel Moseley?
I think we can beat them without Emanuel Moseley as long as we solve their rush up the middle, the rushing attack up the middle. Sure. If we can do that, and here's the thing, Jalen Hurts is very mobile, but he is also susceptible to the sack. He doesn't always make good decisions. I think his RPO is very obvious. Mm-hmm. I really do. And I think against better edge defenders, and the thing is, if D Ford is actually healthy, and he was a menace against Detroit in that first game. He was flying all over the field. He was my pick for defensive MVP, to be honest with you. I just love the pressure he was putting there. If we can seal the edge against Jalen and we can firm up in the middle, it takes so much pressure off the secondary. And I'm not saying Dante Johnson is my pick. We need to play heavy on zone defense because man coverage is not an option when the only person you have is Lenoir. Because Emory Thomas, they ate him alive. There's no other way to put it. I mean, he looked lost. And once again, trailing his assignments. So it's not him. It's not Dante Johnson. I mean, could it be Norman? I mean,
it has to be Norman. See, to me,
the upside
it was
is
Dante.
potential.
It was Dante against the Lions once because Moseley was gone. Once Verrett went out, it was Lenore, and they brought in Dante Johnson.
Norman was not ready.
Exactly.
One of the things about playing cornerback,
exactly,
I think it's the hardest position in the NFL. Like you said earlier, you can miss a practice and you can go edge rush. You can miss a practice and you can pass. You can catch balls. But there's something about the flow and the fluidity that is required. The reaction. Emory Thomas has all the tools in his shed. What you are seeing is the inability in a split second to use them all. And when you have Rust as a corner, Rust means touchdown.
Yeah. Yep.
Dante Johnson, circa Emory Thomas. So I think Norman, I guarantee you, he was sitting there. He knew he wasn't going to play. He was sitting there saying, okay, next week. He knew.
Yeah.
It has to be him.
It has to be Josh Norman because it can't be Dre Kirkpatrick. He's in the same situation, just got here, probably not ready. Also, the Niners, they were both available 2 weeks ago. The Niners signed Norman, and he's better than Kirkpatrick. So that's the guy you want. Dante Johnson, we've seen a lot of Dante Johnson. He's a good special teams player.
Very,
absolutely. Admirably when necessary, but he's like a mop-up reliever in baseball. Like the guy you bring in the fourth inning when you're already down 8. You don't.
Yeah, with like a 5.60 ERA. Yeah,
exactly. You don't start this guy. Like you're just thankful that he can eat some innings for you when you're already lost. No. It has to be Norman, right? Yes.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think Kirkpatrick is actually the person that's going to go ahead. He's going to leapfrog Emory Thomas unless we see some, epiphany from him. and they're to take the pressure off Dante Johnson, let him stick on special teams. And here's the thing, the Niners are kind of learning their lesson. They're like, okay, we went into this soft at this position, no depth. Season could be over unless we address it. Kirkpatrick is in case Norman gets injured. He is ahead of Ambry Thomas and Dante Johnson on this chart.
It's just funny to me, like the Niners, they're in this must-win season because they've lost 3 of the last 4. And they basically said, well, as long as we protect ourselves at quarterback, we'll be good. Just get 2 starting caliber quarterbacks, we'll make the playoffs. It's not that simple. Corner's a really important position too.
Yeah, if you score 40 points a game, absolutely. But that was not the best defense we're going to face.
Nah. Vince says, what's up, Grant? Where did you sit at the Niners game? I was there for my first game with my dad, and we tried looking for you. BT Dub, love the content. Cool. I was up in the Ford Field press box. Ford Field was cool. It's got like a whole wrought iron thing going on, and the press box is in the open air, and it's cool. I liked it. But yeah, you wouldn't have seen me. I was way up high. Let's move on to the last piece of news for the day. Arik Armstead is surprisingly injured. They didn't mention this after the game, but he didn't practice today. He has an abductor strain. Doesn't mean he won't play. But if he doesn't play, what would that mean for the Niners defense, and who would replace him in the base as like the base D end on first down?
He's not the fastest, highest pursuit guy. No. But he's a big body to move, and he kind of absorbs blockers.
Yes,
they do have to pay attention to him. If they don't double team him, or they don't have a really good, tackle on him or something, he's going to push the pocket right into Bosa.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's his biggest function on this team. Honestly, it's not to get sacks. I wish it was to stop the run and things like that, but that's not where he excels. We've seen that. So as far as his replacement, it has to be someone of a similar skill set. How do you feel about somebody like Street sliding over there and the power?
Street might be starting a 3 technique. We don't know.
That's true.
See, here's the thing. Like Armstead, to me, is
Givens got run over a little bit.
He did. To me, Armstead's a very good run defender. Like if you try to run right at him, it's tough. You can't move.
Well, he's got those huge arms, and he's so powerful. He has the Forrest Buckner-like strength. It's no wonder these two are friends. They look like that. I mean, physically they are like brothers.
He's stronger than Buckner. He doesn't have the moves and the finesse and the fluidity that Buckner has.
But he has the power. Absolutely.
Oh my God, yes, he really does. He's like a human forklift. And if you try to run at him, not going to happen. But he's really.
If you go around him.
Oh man, because he's 6'9", he's 6'8", 290. He's big, but if you
start to move those legs,
if you roll out his way, I mean, he can't. There's nothing he can do about it. Every quarterback in the league can make him miss. He's just basically a defensive tackle moved outside. So,
but that's where before the Nick Bosa come in. They're supposed to seal the edge so he can focus with his interior power. So it's really on the other two guys as well. He is as advertised, power down your throat, basically.
What I'm trying to say is I think Ebukam is going to start. I think what they'll do is start Ebukam. And what he does is he'll be much better at keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket. He won't be nearly as good as stopping the run. I mean, he's like 40 pounds lighter than Arik Armstead. So,
but he is high pursuit and high motor. They are completely different players. So absolutely. It's an interesting rotation. I'm still high on Ebukam. So yeah, I can go with that.
Because Armstead is good at the point of attack. Ebukam you want pursuing from the backside. But so I mean, I think they're going to run an Ebukam. He may help their pass defense, but I wonder to see how their run defense does against Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts.
How do you feel about D Ford's playing time going into this game? Do you think they will up his snaps?
I would be careful with him, Sybilla. I mean, we just saw what happened with Raheem Mostert and Jason Verrett. We can't pretend like these players aren't an injury waiting to happen. I think you got to manage these guys.
What about say 15, 20 snaps per game?
That's good. What did he get? 30 in the last game. That's fine. 30's fine, but you can't just be like, well, if Armstead's out, then D, you need to play 60.
Well, he better not being played in the fourth quarter if we have a 20-point lead. That's for certain.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this
Neither
is interesting. They need Armstead. They can't. They keep losing guys. No one knew that Armstead was hurt. I don't know how bad he should play. What's an abductor strain?
I want to say it's in his leg. Is it not? So it's like in his interior leg, like his leg abductor is his stabilizing muscle to the exterior of his quadriceps, I think.
Well, that's even more. Look, if he's healthy, he needs to play even if he doesn't practice. Like he's a captain, he's a vet. I think he's the kind of guy who could play on Sunday.
If what you mean is like, what does it mean for his mobility? It's his mobility sideways.
Well, if that's the case, then if I were the Eagles and he plays, I'm testing that mobility early with a bootleg his direction on the first drive.
Also, it will affect how he can line up as well, like his actual hand in the dirt lineup. That they will strain that as well. So, be interesting to see how they monitor that. What they do.
It's amazing.
Also, I would like to add. I think we can kind of temper our criticism of, say, Givens and other players because it was game one.
Of course.
These are weird games in the first game of the season. So it's hard to read too far into what the 49ers went through. There were some coaching and personnel decisions that should absolutely have been different. I think Jason Verrett is a guy who should not have been playing when he was. I think that was a great time to get some work for Embry Thomas. When you have a lead like that, if you're going to play Embry Thomas, you need him in garbage time.
Also, they were just flat out too confident in Jason Verrett's durability.
Shanahan was having a great time just watching him. He's like, that's my boy out there. Look at the swagger he's playing with. Just let him go. And, I'm sure it was good for the mentality of the team as well to see him out there doing what he does.
Yeah. Until Steven Hernandez says Kyle is a I meant to do that kind of guy. I don't know what that means.
Me neither. I'm trying to figure that out.
And I meant to do that kind of
Maybe it's like when we point out what he should have done. He's like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hindsight is 20/20. Maybe that's what it means.
You wrote to me and said, I want to talk about how the Niners can beat the Eagles in all three phases. So why don't we do it like this? You make the case for how the Niners can just dominate the Eagles in a certain phase, and I'll bring up. I won't disagree because I think the Niners.
Argue it. Yeah, bring up counterpoints. Let's hash this out.
I'm really impressed with the Eagles, maybe too impressed. And listening to Kyle Shanahan today. Now it's a coach's job to talk up the opposing team, but he genuinely seemed impressed by them too in the same ways that I was. So let's talk it through. Do you want to start or however you want to start?
Yeah, I'm reminded about Tom Brady. Every time they ask him, what do you think about the opposing team defense? Oh, they're young, mobile, a lot of talents.
Well coached.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they set the edge, exactly. It just butters them up. But I was impressed with how the Eagles responded in the third and fourth quarters. They steamrolled the Falcons.
Yeah.
However, I want to talk about the first quarter in particular. I said it was one of the ugliest games I had ever seen. I was going to go watch the Bengals game over this. And it was just, but I had to stick with it because we're playing them and things like that. But
it was really low scoring in the first quarter, right? It was like,
because neither team had the compunction to be able to score in the red zone. I mean, it was pathetic, to be honest with you. But here's one of the things. We're not going to talk about the Falcons, but one of the things I noticed about the Eagles, and this could be first game blues, it could be a trend. We'll find out in this game. This is going to tell their fan base who their team is, how they play against us. Mm-hmm. Darius Slay had a horrible game. There's no other way of putting it. In his first half, he missed tackle after tackle after tackle. I cannot wait to see what Juszczyk and Debo's going to punk him. If he gets him one-on-one out in the flat, he's going to stiff arm him and run him over. Kittle, he'll Falcon punch. That's what he will do. Okay. And I would love to see him try to set the edge or make a flat tackle against Trey Lance.
I see. So the Niners are going to get those deep cornerbacks tackling.
Exactly. I think Kyle Shanahan sees it, and I think he will dial up plays. And we'll talk about Aiyuk later. I need him to be active. I want lots of passes his way. Not necessarily this game. Now, he's got great yak. I think he was the leader in college football with yak in his senior year.
Yeah.
But Debo's a different kind of yak. He's more on the side. He's like an Aiyuk and Kittle hybrid. Yeah. He's just mean. And the way he runs people over, that is what I will look to see for the Eagles. Now, I saw 3 different plays in the first half where they missed 4 tackles.
Wow.
That I was sitting there going 1, 2. It was like watching pinball. It looked like watching kids play. And it was like at that point the game was unwatchable. And it resulted in a field goal for the Falcons. So that tells you where the Falcons are. They are in a rebuild mode. So don't read too far into the score that they ran up on them. I mean, even Pitts, I think, number 8, I think, is that what he's wearing for them? He had a terrible game. There's no other way to put it. He looked lost out there. I don't know if that's Matt Ryan's fault. The play calling, the offensive line play was lousy. These are the things that the 49ers are going to have to exploit, is the Eagles' inability to seal up a tackle. They can't finish a tackle right now. But it could have just been game 1. And that's what we're going to find out in this next game. One of the other things that we should probably do is do some reverses, some RPOs, and some play action in the backfield. And the reason I say this is the one Falcon who began to have a good game was Cordero Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know him. He's just a beast. He refuses to go down and tackle. He's just a great all-around kind of football player kind of guy. He ran the Eagles over on his first 3 carries. It was gorgeous. He's nowhere near the running back that Mitchell or Hasty or the other guys we have are going to be. And I hope Trey Sermon will be active, because I would like to see his bruiser self go straight at the Eagles. But the one place they have to avoid is Fletcher Cox and Hargreaves.
These
guys, they're not pushovers. No. I completely disagree with PFF that Cox is better than Buckner. That's a farce. I don't get that. But Cox is number 2 to Buckner. He is a good player. He can get home. Hargreaves actually had a little bit of a better game because he's faster, which means he got to the quarterback more often than Cox. But Cox is the one who pushes the pocket. For 49ers fans, he is their Justin Smith. That's the role he takes. He kills the run up the middle. So don't try these little things they did with Trey Lance. What were they running him up the middle for?
I don't know.
I don't get that. That was so weird. It's like, hey, hit our quarterback.
Yeah, hey, please hit our quarterback. Yeah, that was good.
So to me, that was really weird. So these are the things we should exploit with them. Again, with the pass defense, it's kind of hard to say the Eagles' pass defense is lights out because they were playing Matt Ryan in an anemic offense. I don't see enough from that to know how we can test Darius Slay, because I know Darius Slay, he's had some good play in his career.
I mean, it seems to me like this team has a really good pass rush and corners who can cover. And like they got Slay's really good in coverage. Their free safety, Anthony Harris, is a hell of a safety. It seems to me that the Niners need to be able to run the ball very effectively, and of course they can. They always can.
And they will. But they have to stick with that for time of possession, because they will have to treat this like a Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray game. We have no idea how inspired Jalen Hurts is going to play, but we have to play him.
He looked like Russell Wilson week 1. I'm sorry. He looks so good.
Yes, he looked very
so good.
And he adjusted. And the other thing is he has a former Heisman winner on the outside.
Yes, he does.
So Devontae
played
Smith,
well.
However,
and he's got a nice running back too.
Let me ask you this question. What's his bench rep?
Devontae Smith?
Yes.
I don't know.
Did he ever do it?
Probably. I don't know.
So I went looking before the show. I found that he opted out of all on-field activities.
All right.
Here's why. He claims he's 170 pounds. No, he's not. He is smaller than me, and he's about 5 inches taller.
Yeah. He's good.
He's good, but
he's good though.
The way you beat a guy like that is to push him to the outside. And trying to remember what was it? Henry Ruggs in the Raiders game had a miserable first half and third quarter. They kept pushing him to the outside.
Right.
They pushed him over on one play. They didn't play him in excellent coverage. They punked him.
Yeah.
They took advantage of his lack of muscle and physical imposition, and they ran him over. That's how the Ravens covered him. They shut him down until the end. That one pass. This is how they have to play this guy. And we need to put our more physical, in-your-face corner over there. And it could be Moseley if he's healthy, but Lenoir seems to like to be physical at the line of scrimmage, and he's fast.
That's a tough matchup for Lenoir.
It is, but who do we have that can cover him?
No, you're right. That's the matchup, but that's a tough matchup.
We have to physically impose upon him.
Hold on,
we can't let him run his route.
Let me argue right now. Let me
go ahead.
Argue right here, because I like the Eagles offense right now. It seems to me that you're right. Like the Niners can do a good job against the Eagles passing game, but what the Eagles passing game gets dangerous is when Hurts gets out of the pocket. He's okay. He'll throw quick passes, screens, quick passes from the pocket. But what happens is, I saw him do it a lot. He steps up very quickly in the pocket. He'll drop deep, and the defensive ends will go to where he sets up. But he steps up aggressively, and if there's an open hole to the right, he'll take it. And if the Niners give him that, what happens is he extends the play, and then Devontae Smith is running around, and it's very hard to cover these guys. Devontae Smith isn't that fast, but Jalen Reagor is. Kez Watkins ran like a 4.2. He went to Southern Miss. There's actually a lot of speed on this offense. And then there's Miles Sanders too on the check down. If the Niners can keep Jalen Hurd in the pocket and make him execute, they got Nick Bosa, they got Dee Ford. They can do very well. But as soon as he gets away, like out and to the right and away from Nick Bosa, he's got the advantage. So the Niners can't let that happen. I'm just saying.
So let me counter. Earlier you said maybe they should abandon the wide 9? Should they not stick with it?
Well, see how many yards they give up on the ground.
Because I obviously it might seal Sanders, but will it seal Hurts?
Well, no.
Which one would you rather stop?
If you have 5 across the front, you still have a guy setting the edge. You just have an extra guy in the middle.
Yeah, but he did a lot of running. He has the ability to run up the middle effectively. So would you keep the wide 9 is what I'm asking you. And if you're worried about him rolling out, would you not want to seal him?
I think I wouldn't go wide 9. I think I'd go 5-man front because they're a run-first team and they're gonna run it right up the middle.
So we absolutely have to stop what's coming up.
You got to stop that. And then in terms of keeping him in the pocket, what I'm talking about is you can't let the defensive ends rush too far upfield. Like what you're telling them is to keep him in the pocket.
He steps up one big step and he's gone.
And what you're saying is don't worry about the pressure. Like he is raw in the pocket. Make him just be there and execute because he could probably make one read throws or quick throws, but if he has to stay there and make full field reads from the pocket, he's going to make mistakes, or that's what you're banking on. Because you have a good defense. You have Fred Warner out there, Jimmy Ward out there. You have good players in coverage. I don't think you need to I just feel like if you sell out to get him, he's going to get out of the pocket. He's very quick, and he can break tackles. He's big. He looks like Trey Lance.
Yeah, he does. I agree with you to the point that they definitely the edge defenders, that might be where the game is won and lost.
Yeah,
they are the ones that are going to have to play within. They're going to have to stay in their lane, so to speak. Yep, they are going to have to set the edge in a way where they're not trying to track him down from behind, because then it's over. I mean, it's tackles can't chase down wide receivers.
If he's going to leave the pocket, he needs to back out of it and go around, because at that point, you got Nick Bosa, D Ford, Samson Ebby, guys who can run him down.
Horizontally, they can chase him down.
Exactly.
Bosa can chase any quarterback in the league down horizontally if they are in front of him.
Force him to back out of the pocket if he wants to get out. Because that may not go so well. Samson Ebby comes fast, but if he can front out of the pocket, you're screwed. So that's a big key for the Niners. Not to be over-aggressive with those defensive ends, not to get too far upfield. Because last year, if you remember, the Niners lost week 1 to Kyler Murray. And there was like a 3rd and 18 that they let Kyler scramble for like 20 yards. That was Nick Bosa rushing too far upfield. Kyler Murray dropped back, saw the big lane, and it was the easiest 20-yard run of his life. So it's on the DNs. Once the quarterback's out of the pocket, there's very little the defense can do. Very
well, he's going to break off at least one of these runs per game, kind of like Jackson did in Monday Night Football. But it's going to be on DeMeco Ryans if he can see this and adjust to it. And as for abandoning the wide 9, I don't know if a first-year defensive coordinator is willing to change his game plan. Do you?
Well, let me tell you something. I think the Eagles right now are a team that's maybe more committed to running their quarterback than any other team in the league. I saw the Ravens.
It's their secret weapon. That's not
it's
so
what
secret.
They want to do, and they're not paying him a lot of money. They're not committed to him. They need him. That's the only way they can win. So the last time the Niners faced a team like that was the Ravens in 2019, and in that game they did not play wide 9. They had Nick Bosa standing up. They've had a 5-man front because what Saleh was saying is, well, we're playing 11-on-11 football today. And I think that's what the Niners are going to be doing on Sunday. They're going to be playing 11-on-11 football. I could be wrong. They did pass a lot in this game, the Eagles. He completed 27 throws, but yep. I don't know. If you play wide 9, you're just inviting the Eagles to run it right down your throat. Inviting them to. And Miles Sanders is a hell of a running back.
Yeah, and it's our weakness on the team is run defense.
Without Kinlaw, yeah. Ninerbot says, should I start Sermon this week? I would say no.
Don't start him, but he will play, I hope.
Yes, I think he will, but no. I would not start him. I think it's pretty clear.
I think it's Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell. I think the Niners prefer Mitchell and Hasty right now. So,
yes.
No. David Sir says, was there anything else you wanted to say about this matchup? Oh.
Yeah, we pretty much went over it for the most part, but it's the number one thing the 49ers have to do is play very physical against the team. They've got some small players. They got some big players like Fletcher Cox, but they've got some weaknesses, I feel, in the physical realm on their offense and on their defense that the 49ers have to come to town and play. They need to be the meaner team here, plain and simple. They have to bully the Eagles into submission.
The Eagles don't have great linebackers, and I feel like the Niners should be able to run the ball. Like they should be, like the end around should work, the jet sweep. They should be able to run the ball and win this game and can totally control it.
That's the other thing. Time of possession. Here's the thing. If the Eagles want to establish their run game and that's how they want to beat us, go ahead and do it. But if we are establishing our run game and we are better passers, plain and simple, we have better offensive weapons, we're going to win this game on time of possession alone. We're going to run the clock out. In other words, Shanahan has to manage this game. If their run game is working, he has to make sure ours is as well. And he has to stick with it. He has to keep, just like Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, these kinds of quarterbacks, keep them on the sideline. That's where you want to see these mobile quarterbacks. So when they do come in, they don't have the time of possession to play with in the long run of the game to play their game plan out. Don't let Philly get in the driver's seat with this run game of theirs. That's my point.
Right. If the Niners get an early lead, then Philly has to play catch up, and they're in a bad position.
Absolutely. And that's where D Ford and Nick Bosa come in.
Yep, absolutely. Is there anything else I wanted to say about this matchup? Guess not. I don't know. Oh, well. David Sir says, we should keep our defense off the field as much as possible by running out the clock. Just smash mouth football and nothing cute.
There we go. Thank you, David. That's all 49ers football.
Last key to this game. I think the Niners are going to need to play Trey Lance more than they did against the Lions. I understand. Like, you don't need to play it much against the Lions to beat them, and you can maintain the element of surprise. But if the Niners move the ball really well with their running game and stall out in the red zone consistently, they're going to lose. Because this team, when you have a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, it's very dangerous in the red zone. That rushing threat really makes things easier for them. He scored 3 touchdowns in this game. Jimmy scored 1. If Jimmy's going to go out there and score 1 or 2 touchdowns a game and be efficient, that's not going to be enough. So I think when they do get into the red zone, they're going to need that same threat that the Eagles have. And for the Niners, that's Trey Lance. So I would like to see 8. Whenever they're in the red zone, I want to see him on the field. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that because he adds such a different dynamic to the team. And the thing is, Fletcher Cox and Hargreaves are a bigger threat to Jimmy Garoppolo because he's not as mobile and he's more of a pocket passer. That's what they do. They push the pocket right into your lap and then they seal you in. They collapse the pocket, basically.
Yes.
That's not something that works as well on Trey Lance if they're allowing Trey Lance to be himself and get outside of the pockets. And that's we did not see any of that in the first game. But again, I just don't want to read too far into that because it was the first game. Maybe Shanahan didn't feel that we needed to unleash the bag of tricks to beat the Lions.
That's what I think. But I think what would work really well right now for Lance, if you need it, is throwing play action. Because he's made it real clear. Like the perception right now is you don't trust him to throw. And he's just going to come in and run. So that's why, to me, the touchdown pass worked. No one expected him to throw. So do that again. 1 throw or 2, and it'll have it be for a touchdown.
Play calling is such a weird thing in the NFL because you've got that play. And when you call a play, it's not the play that you want to call then. It's a play that's the result of the plays you have called before then. The deeks, the runs to soften up the defense, to keep them honest, so you can dial up that end zone shot, basically, the home run. Yeah. I feel like Shanahan might be doing that with Lance a little bit. We'll see. I feel like he's like, run. Run.
Week 4.
Read pass option, play action, reverse. Pass the ball.
He's setting something up. He works like weeks ahead. I absolutely agree with you. So I'm just kind of excited to see when he unleashes it. But the way I understand, this might be the most difficult game of the first 3. So this might be the one.
No, absolutely. If Aaron Rodgers is still in prima donna mode, we are going to smash the Packers. Exactly. And I am a firm believer. I've said it before. The 49ers, when they are healthy, are Aaron Rodgers' worst nightmare in the whole NFL. The reason being because he's not. They say he's mobile. No, he's not. He's got old man rickety legs. Look what the Niners have done to him. And the thing is, B. Ford and Nick Bosa are. It wouldn't matter if they were the best at their position. They are the best to harass Aaron Rodgers.
Yes,
we have the perfect team to smash them. And they have a good running back and everything like that. But it's not as dynamic an offense as the San Francisco 49ers, which is surprising given who coaches them.
Yeah. Timothy says, how do you effectively keep a quarterback in the pocket? Okay, we just talked about it. First of all, start the defensive ends not rushing too far upfield. But there's another thing. Set the edge. There's another thing. If you rush 4 and your defensive ends do their job, there's still a gap that the quarterback can escape from. 4 on 5. So what often you need to do if the quarterback's looking to get outside is bring a 5th rusher. You need to also rush 5. And then that means if you're rushing 5, you need to play man coverage with single high safety, which means you need Jason Verrett or some corners that you trust because they're not going to be getting much safety help. That's why Jason Verrett was so important. And that's what ultimately Robert Saleh did last year to contain Kyler Murray week 16. You bring that blitzer from the quarterback's right side. So to get away from it, he has to scramble left. And it's much harder to throw rolling left than rolling right. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. And I think it
Yeah.
depends on what cover scheme you play as well. You have to
Corner
decide how.
blitzes, nickel blitzes from the
Right,
all day.
right, exactly.
Yep.
And what the linebackers are doing up the middle. Everybody
Yep.
has to basically take every lane away from him.
Yep.
That's
But I mean,
as
once he gets out of the pocket, you're screwed. Like the quarterback spy who chases him down, you probably don't have someone who's fast enough. Your job is to keep him in the pocket.
exactly, and that's why you don't overshoot the runway. You'll hear this in the NFL a lot. He overshot his assignment or he overshot the tackle, and that's what Grant was talking about earlier. When the defensive ends, basically, it's almost like this sickle cut formation they do, where they kind of circle out too far, and next thing you know, they're playing catch up from behind to where the quarterback is, which almost flush. It's almost like busting quail out of the hedge. At that point, you're forcing them out. And that's when they get wired and they get free. And the linebackers, it depends on what their assignment is. Philadelphia will most likely use their tight ends coming across the middle to take our linebackers out as well. They will drop our linebackers into coverage. The other thing, I wanted to say one more thing. Jimmy Ward, how did you feel about his performance in Detroit?
I wasn't impressed with that tackle attempt that ended up in a miss. That was a touchdown.
Did you notice they were dragging him when he was tackling them?
Yes.
Did you notice where he was tackling them?
Yeah, he was like catching them.
Yeah, and they were dragging him like a rag doll.
That's what I saw from Arik Reed at the end. Like when Arik Reed first got here, he was hitting people, and then by the end,
he got concussions.
He was catching and getting dragged, and I did see that from Jimmy Ward too.
Well, remember what Arik Reed said in public? Well, he got concussions. Remember, he hit so hard he hurt himself.
He got early, yeah.
Right, so that's what that was. I don't know what it is with Jimmy, but let's call that Jimmy's blues for the year. Let's see what he does in the Eagles game. But man, I was this close to feeling like, Jimmy, get in the weight room. He looks small too. Does he look smaller to you?
Maybe it's the single number. Maybe it's the single digit.
That's true. No, that's basic fashion. No, you might be right. Stripes. Yep.
501 Club Kenny says, what kind of defensive front does ATL use? He's a 4-3. Am I wrong?
I think you're right. Yep.
I'm right. Raymond Martinez Jr. says, for a team with an offensive genius, this needs to be the year where the offense carries a team. Yeah, great point. Defense is key, but Kyle needs to get in his bag because I don't know about this defense right now. No Verrett, no Kinlaw, maybe no Moseley. Yeah, no Buckner. It's got to be the offense this year. They need to score 35 points in this game.
Raymond is absolutely right. What he said, he needs to get into his bag of tricks. Yeah, he has to do that. Kyle needs to open his complete playbook up, regardless of whether or not people begin to study it. This has to be the year in which he just, let's see how smart you are, Kyle. We know you're this smart. Why play around with the opponent's defense? Steamroll them. Be merciless. Absolutely.
Agree. Keneal says, do you think Trey with scout team helps us versus mobile quarterbacks? Yes.
Absolutely.
Sermon's usage will grow with Trey's usage. He was shotgun zone retype back at OSU. Agree.
Great point.
Agree.
But I like what Keneal says there.
Yeah, that leads us into our next topic. Okay, so this is conspiracy theory hour. Let me run this by you. All right, this is a little pattern that Cy, who calls into the Cohn phone, alerted me to today on Twitter. I looked into it. The players the 49ers have traded up for. Hold on, let me get the list real quick because there's 7, and 6 of them are on offense. These are players the Niners have traded up for since 2017, which is Shanahan's first year. So these players are Reuben Foster, CJ Beathard, Joe Williams, Dante Pettis, Brandon Aiyuk, Trey Sermon, and Trey Lance. And what I've noticed is these are players that Kyle Shanahan has kind of soured on quickly. Like Foster, they waived. Beathard, they buried him on the depth chart for years behind Nick Mullins, and then they didn't re-sign him. Joe Williams got waived. Pettis got waived. Aiyuk is now, Shanahan has said on the record that he's inconsistent. Sermon was inactive last week, and Lance is not ready. I have a theory as to why this is, because to me it's bizarre. This is your team, Kyle. John Lynch has already said you have final say on the offensive picks. These are all offensive players except for Foster that you traded up for. How can you change your mind so quickly? And my theory is this, that while he liked these guys, it was probably John Lynch's decision to trade up for him. And Kyle's the kind of guy who could be like, well, I didn't tell you to trade up for him. And he can say, well, I don't want people to think that I'm giving them preferential treatment because I traded up for him. So I'm going to be even tougher on him. And I want to prove the point to John Lynch that he was wrong to move up. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's more old school and likes to trade down. I don't know. But it seems to me that when a coach kind of sabots or is very hard on a player, puts him in the doghouse quickly, it's usually like, I didn't want this guy. But Kyle can't say that because he picks the offensive players. All he can say is, well, I didn't say trade up for him. And from what I heard, he used that excuse with CJ Beathard. He's like, well, yes, I did like CJ, but I never told John to trade up for him. I'm just saying. So there could be some of that going on. What do you think?
Well, there's one thing for certain. Kyle Shanahan, he definitely puts what we think are great picks, people that the 49ers are high on, in the doghouse rather quickly. And I don't like that. I'm sorry, but Aiyuk, yes.
Sermon? Aiyuk? What is going on?
Well, Sermon makes even perhaps less sense. Never gets a chance, doghouse. And yet he has the dimensions of a bruiser running back. He's fast, he's maneuverable, he can catch. Like this guy, he's a blocker. He'll do anything you ask him to do. He's a humble football player, it seems like.
You trade for Trey Lance and you just decide, but he's not ready. I don't even want to give a competition. He's not ready. I mean, wow.
Aiyuk also disturbs me because, like, I know what he can do. We know what he can do. We know what his yak can be. What? This doesn't make sense. Now, Kyle Shanahan said it was that he's not in the doghouse, but you don't believe that, do you?
No. He played 26 snaps and got 0 targets. That felt like punishment. You're going to go clear out routes for Deebo Samuel. How you like that? And if you do a good job with that, maybe I'll give you a target next week. No. This feels very like tough love.
If that's true, that's absolutely childish and it's bad leadership because, I mean, there's no points. Yeah, Pettis, we've always said whether Pettis was into it or not, it's just the way he was handled so publicly and everything like that. And the way that Kyle Shanahan, he'll look at the camera and he'll be like you said, he'll look at the camera and he'll say things like, well, we'll see how he's progressing.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants, he said today about Brandon Aiyuk,
it's on his shoulders.
Time, he needs to be a lot better than the guy behind him. Like, he was taking subliminal shots at Aiyuk left and right today. Dude, you traded up for him. That is so weird.
Aiyuk is a good player. I mean, I would love to hear from some of the people watching the show what they think, but he's a good player. He needs to be played. And we cannot make ourselves one-dimensional. Darius Slay will get the Deebo Samuel assignment, for instance. So other people will have to step up. I think Trent Sherfield can. I like Trent Sherfield. Maybe like a modern J.J. Stokes or something like that. But at the same point, Aiyuk is deadly with the ball in his hands. We all remember what he did to the Eagles last year. Jumped over him. It was great. That's Brandon Aiyuk. He needs to be played. So do I think it's possible that this is a recurring theme with Kyle? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it goes to show who has the power. If it is possible, then I find it more hard to believe that he is not the mastermind behind the trades. And here's why. If he is such a draconian autocrat, why would he relinquish his power there as well? Typically, when this
is his personality. What he does is, I think he, instead of being like an alpha and like standing up for what he wants and he'll relent. He relented on Mac Jones. And if John Lynch makes you very strong about it, he'll be like, all right, you're the GM, man. But you put your neck out there. And then he'll complain about it after the fact. Well, I told you I was right. I told you were wrong, John. Okay, well then why don't you overrule me? Why don't you take responsibility? Why don't you take control? Well, you're the GM and you wanted to see. To me, this is a guy who was unwilling to put his neck out there, but now he's placing blame. And it seems to me that no matter how close a GM and a coach may be at first, if they're in a must-win season and things go south, invariably both of them will try to position themselves as safer and try to position the problems as the other person's fault. Like before the season, Steve Keim, the GM down in Arizona, said on the record, like, yeah, the expectation is to make the playoffs this year and go far, which is basically saying, team is good. This is all on Cliff Kingsbury. If we don't make it, it's on the coach. Don't blame me. I think Gruden was doing similar stuff with Mayock, and they're supposed to be super tight. So I think what is happening here is they know they're in a must-win season, and they're probably going to make the playoffs. But if they don't, and someone needs to be held accountable, or
John Lynch,
it's going to be John. And that's
what I don't like that.
It's like, hey, man, Trey Lance, that wasn't my call. Like, Trey Sermon, I never said trade up for Trey Sermon. There are ways subtly that you can put someone else's ass on the line, essentially. You love that about.
So that's not so much of a conspiracy as it is a little bit of a CYA game, I guess you could say. So that's more like what you say. You see that in the NFL where it's where it's in the NFL, you're playing for your future. You're playing for your contract next year or to get your contract renewed or something like that.
No one ever takes accountability in the NFL. It's always, well, he wanted to do that. I tried to tell him. Everything I said was right, but only 2 of the things that I wanted to do were listened to. And that's why I deserve more power. That's why this guy's in the way. I'm just saying that's how the NFL always works. It's whoever can like push blame best stays the longest.
Well, let me ask you about this Sermon thing. Was Kyle Shanahan wrong?
I don't know. I mean,
Mitchell had a heck of a game. I feel like he played well.
I thought he looked good in the preseason. Yeah, I don't understand. And like he said, you can only have 3 running backs active for a game. Who made that rule? What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's weird.
So because it's like Mostert gets hurt on the second play, and now you're down to 2 running backs. That's not good. There's no rule about only having anyway. That's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I like I said, Aiyuk and Sermon greatly concern me. Lance not so much because I think he is stuck with Trey Lance, whether he wants it or not.
And I think there is something about Kyle that he likes tough love. Maybe that's what his dad gave him. Maybe that's the only type of coaching he knows. He did work for John.
Actually, I can answer that.
Yeah.
Because I listen. Shannon Sharp is one of my favorite football players. I listen to him and Skip Bayless all the time. Mm-hmm. Besides your show and that one, those are the 2 I always listen to. So he has a lot of insight into. He doesn't call it Mike and Kyle Shanahan. He just calls it Shanahan because Sharp is always insinuating that the San Francisco 49ers are coached by both Mike and Kyle Shanahan.
He's right.
And he made the point when he was playing, he's like, they're birds of a feather. They are the same kind of coaches, that very old school style. Yeah. You know, like early 90s, mid 90s style kind of football and everything. So yeah, it's definitely, he believes in tough love, but he's a little different than his father. His father was to me a little bit less, I don't want to use an inflammatory word, but it just seems like Kyle messes with his guys a little bit more.
I see what you're saying.
Like it's a little bit more on a personal level.
Antagonistic.
Yeah. But and okay, so antagonism in a lot of bad leaders' books or lower ranking leaders, managers in particular, is a mode of motivation.
Yeah.
They think if I punk you a little bit, if I push you, you're going to shove back.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with the emotional head game of making comments about your wide receivers. To be honest with you, what I would like to see, which the press does not want to see, is more the Kyle Shanahan where he messes with the press, not his guys. I'd rather see that. And the reason I say that
was Harbaugh. Yeah.
Right, where he might make some jokes and things. And like, if tomorrow you ask him, hey, what's with Aiyuk? I don't know, what's with Aiyuk? Looks good to me.
Exactly. That's what
Jim Harbaugh would say. See that. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he bites on questions sometimes. You can get him.
He bites like defensive players bite on play action. Teron Lewis says, on some plays, I'd like to see Ward at cornerback and Josh Norman at free safety, where I feel he'd be most effective, in my opinion.
I think Teron, perhaps you are thinking of like Richard Sherman should have moved to safety. Maybe that's your thinking. Kind of slowed down, but they have the smarts to read the zone well. I don't know if Norman is prepared to make a move like that in his career, but
that's the kind of thing you need to do all offseason, I would think.
Right. And to be honest with you, if some weird thing happened where Richard Sherman came back to this team, Grant, do you think he'd be better at safety or corner?
Again, I think he would need to have spent the entire offseason working.
He has some reps at safety, but not enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Davis came on the show and said, look, I played with Merton Hanks. I know Merton Hanks. Richard Sherman could do what Merton Hanks did.
That's exactly what I think. Absolutely.
But I still think he needs a full offseason practicing. I mean, who can just step into a new position at 34 and knock it out? I think that's a lot. That's asking a lot.
It is asking a lot. There are nuances to safety and things like that. And of course, that would be bumping Ward or something like that back out of his natural position. So it's like, would it weaken us at one level to strengthen us at another?
Also, we don't know if Richard Sherman's into it. We don't know.
The way I read it is it seems like Richard Sherman, I read one article that says he is open to it. But we have the 5 misdemeanors to worry about. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like the NFL is going to get involved. Have you read these articles? And that he was open to a mid-season return?
Great. Well,
which actually is better. There's no way he's stretched out enough and in football shape right now.
Well, if he can get his stuff together, that he might be a nice little addition for the Niners mid-season, because I still think if he's got, I don't want to use stupid cliches, but if he's mentally and physically good to go,
no, it's okay. Yeah,
he's better than Josh Norman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's a master of the zone, which we're not going to be playing right man coverage in the near future with Jason Verrett out.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to be a zone. We need zone defenders.
All right, so well, that's our show for today. This was a really good one. I enjoyed I enjoyed our little back and forth about
Yeah, I love it.
the Eagles.
Absolutely. We should do that again.
That was fun, absolutely. And I don't know why I always start looking at things from the perspective of the opposing team. I like covering the Niners, but I think I like the idea of trying to game plan against them and how would I go against them. And then I watch the game and I'm like, man, that's not how I would do it. What are you doing, Philly? Anyway, in my mind, that's what's going to happen.
But you know what? That's just tactics and strategy. Yeah. I mean, you'd make a good commander. I mean, that's you're supposed to look at it through the lens of your opponent. You know what you're going to do. What are they going to do? And that's the any good leadership, any good strategy, play calling. You have to assume that you're looking through the eyes of the other team. So
thanks. All right. Well, we'll be back next week.
Absolutely,
everyone. I'll see you guys tonight with Jesse.